My sister-in-law secretly recorded my childbirth and sold it for $60,000. I turned the meme into evidence. Now she's facing prison. My name is Maya Reeves, and I want you to understand something before I tell you this story. I trusted her. Completely. Blindly. Stupidly. Her name was Natasha Reeves, my husband's younger sister. 26 years old, a social media manager with 32,000 Instagram followers, always with her phone in hand, always curating, always capturing. She made money from brand deals, from sponsored posts, from turning every moment of her life into content. I should have seen it coming. It was September when I found out I was pregnant with my first child. I was 29, married to Natasha's brother James for 3 years, and we'd been trying for 18 months. When that test showed positive, I cried so hard James thought something was wrong. We told his family at Sunday dinner that weekend. James's parents, Richard and Patricia, were overjoyed. They'd been waiting for their first grandchild. But it was Natasha's reaction I remember most. She squealed, jumped up from the table, grabbed her phone immediately. "Oh my God, Maya. We have to document everything. Your whole pregnancy journey. Can you imagine the content? The belly photos, the cravings, the nursery setup, the gender reveal. I can help you create the most amazing pregnancy Instagram. You'll get so many followers." I laughed, uncomfortable. "Natasha, I'm pretty private about this stuff. I don't really want to put my pregnancy all over social media." Her smile faltered. Just for a second. Then it was back, bright and big. "Right, of course. But maybe just a few posts. I could take such beautiful photos of you. It would be a shame not to capture this." "We'll see," I said, non-committal. James squeezed my hand under the table. He knew I meant no. Over the next few months, Natasha asked. And asked. And asked. "Can I film your first ultrasound appointment? I'll keep it private, just for memories." "No." "What about your baby shower? Let me at least photograph the baby shower. I'll make it so aesthetic." "No." "Maya, you're glowing. Just one maternity shoot. Professional quality. I won't post anything without your permission." "No, no, no." Each refusal made her a little colder, a little sharper. James noticed too. "My sister's acting weird," he said one night in February, when I was 7 months pregnant. "She keeps asking me if you've changed your mind about the photos." "I haven't," I said firmly. "James, this is our baby. Our private moment. I don't want it turned into content for strangers to consume." "Is that really so unreasonable?" "Of course not," he said, kissing my forehead. "I'll talk to her. Tell her to back off." He did. And Natasha smiled and apologized and said she understood completely. But I saw something in her eyes. Something hungry. I should have trusted my instincts. My due date was March 23rd. I went into labor naturally at 11 p.m. on March 21st, early, but not concerning. We called the hospital, grabbed our pre-packed bags, and drove through empty Dallas streets to Mercy General Hospital. James called his parents from the car. "It's happening. We're heading to the hospital now." I didn't know he'd also texted Natasha. We got to the hospital at midnight. The contractions were intensifying but still manageable. The nurse, a kind woman named Sharon, got me checked in and settled into a labor and delivery room. "You're at 4 centimeters, she said after examining me. "First babies usually take a while. Try to rest between contractions. Do you have a birth plan?" "I want to try for unmedicated as long as possible," I said, gripping James's hand through another contraction. "But I'm open to an epidural if I need it." Sharon nodded. "We'll support whatever you choose. Who's in your support team?" "Just my husband," I said. "No family in the waiting room?" "His parents will come in the morning," James said. "We wanted the early labor to be just us." That was the plan. Just us. At 2 a.m., there was a knock on the door. Sharon opened it, and Natasha walked in. She was wearing a designer athleisure set, the kind influencers wear for casual photo shoots. Her hair was perfectly curled. She carried a large tote bag and a Starbucks cup. "Surprise," she said brightly. "I know you said just you two, but I couldn't let my brother go through this alone. I brought you guys coffee." She handed James a cup, then turned to me. "And I brought you herbal tea, Maya. Raspberry leaf, it's supposed to help with labor." I did so much research. I was between contractions, exhausted already. "Natasha, that's sweet, but we really wanted. I'll stay out of the way, I promise. I just want to be here for you guys. For moral support." She settled into the chair in the corner, pulling out her phone. "Don't mind me." James looked at me. I could see the conflict on his face. It was his sister, and she'd driven here in the middle of the night. How could we kick her out? I was too tired to fight. "Okay. But Natasha, no phones. No photos. No posting anything. This is private. Of course, she said, setting her phone face down on the side table. I totally understand. This is your moment. She handed me the tea. It was warm and sweet, with a raspberry flavor that wasn't unpleasant. I drank half of it, grateful for something to sip between contractions. And that's when things started happening fast. Within 20 minutes of drinking that tea, my contractions went from manageable to unbearable. They were coming every 2 minutes, intense and overwhelming. My body felt like it was being torn apart from the inside. Something's wrong, I gasped to Sharon when she came back to check on me. It's too much, too fast. She examined me quickly. Oh, you're at 8 centimeters already. Your labor is progressing very rapidly. This happens sometimes, it just kicks into high gear. I need the epidural, I said through tears. Please, I need it now. I'll call the anesthesiologist, Sharon said, moving fast. But he was in an emergency C-section. It would be 45 minutes. I didn't have 45 minutes. The pain was so intense I couldn't think, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything but survive each contraction. I vaguely remember James holding my hand, his face white with worry. I remember screaming. I remember the feeling of my body taking over, pushing, unable to stop. And I remember, in fragmented moments of clarity between the pain, seeing Natasha. She wasn't sitting in her chair anymore. She was moving around the room. Her tote bag was open. And though my vision was blurred with tears and agony, I could have sworn I saw her phone pointed toward the bed. But then another contraction hit, and I forgot everything except the pain. My daughter was born at 4:47 a.m. on March 22nd. 7 pounds, 3 ounces. Perfect. They placed her on my chest, and I sobbed, from relief, from exhaustion, from overwhelming love. James was crying too, kissing my forehead, whispering, "You did it. You're amazing. She's perfect." I was shaking, covered in sweat, completely depleted. The doctor was stitching me up. I'd torn during the rapid delivery. Everything hurt. But my baby was here, and she was healthy, and it was over. Natasha was standing in the corner, her phone now obviously out, taking photos of us. Maya, look at me. Just one photo of you and the baby, for memories. Natasha, no. James started. But I cut him off. I was too exhausted to care anymore. Fine. One photo. Then please leave. I need to rest. She took several photos. Close-ups of the baby. Shots of me holding her, looking absolutely wrecked. Wide shots of the room. These are beautiful, she murmured. So raw. So real. Then she left, and I forgot about her entirely. Because I had my daughter, whom we named Luna, and nothing else mattered. The first 3 weeks of Luna's life were the hardest of mine. The sleep deprivation was torture. My body was healing slowly. Breastfeeding was painful and difficult. But every time I looked at my daughter's face, I felt a love so fierce it scared me. James went back to work after 2 weeks of paternity leave. His mother Patricia came over every few days to help. Natasha visited once, took some photos of Luna that I reluctantly allowed, and left. Life was hard, but it was ours. Then, on April 14th, 3 weeks and 2 days after Luna's birth, I got a text from my friend Simone at 9 p.m. Maya, I need you to call me. Right now. It's urgent. My stomach dropped. I called her immediately, Luna asleep in my arms. What's wrong? Maya. Simone's voice was shaking. I don't know how to tell you this, but there's a video. On Twitter. It's viral. And Maya, I think it's you. My blood went cold. What are you talking about? Someone screen recorded it from a website and posted it. It's you giving birth. The whole thing. Oh God, Maya, it's really graphic. There are memes. People are making jokes. I'm sending you the link, but maybe you shouldn't. I hung up. The link came through. With trembling fingers, I clicked it. And there I was. Me in that hospital room, in the worst pain of my life. Screaming. Crying. The footage was crystal clear, HD quality. Multiple angles, like it had been edited together from different cameras. There was footage of me during contractions, my face contorted in agony. Footage of the actual birth, graphic, invasive, showing everything. Footage of me sobbing after, holding Luna, my hospital gown stained and my face wrecked. The video was 23 minutes long. It had been edited with timestamps and transitions. It was titled, Natural Unmedicated Birth, Raw and Unfiltered. Below it, someone had commented, "This is the most intense birth video I've ever seen. Where did this come from?" Another comment, "This woman is a warrior, wow." Another, "Am I the only one who finds this kind of hot?" And another, "This is somebody's private moment. This shouldn't be online." But it was too late. The video had been viewed 1.3 million times. It had been screen recorded and reposted on Twitter, where it had another 800,000 views. People were making memes from my face during contractions. They'd screenshotted the moment of Luna's birth and were sharing it. My most vulnerable, private, painful moment had become viral content. I ran to the bathroom and vomited. James came home from a work dinner at 10:30 p.m. to find me sitting on the couch, shaking, Luna asleep in her bassinet. "Maya, what's wrong?" I couldn't speak. I just handed him my phone. I watched his face as he watched the video. Watched the color drain from his skin. Watched his jaw clench. Watched him realize, the same way I had, that this was real. "Who did this?" His voice was barely above a whisper. "Who filmed this?" "There's only one person who could have," I said, my voice hollow. "Your sister." "No." "Maya, Natasha wouldn't," she promised. "James." I grabbed the phone back, pulling up the video again. "Look at it. Look at the angles." This was filmed from multiple positions around the room. She had cameras hidden. She recorded everything. And she sold it. "How do you know she sold it?" "Because it's on a birth video website." "Look," I showed him the original source, a site called naturalbirth.com that sold authentic, unscripted birth footage to subscribers. The video was behind a paywall. Someone had screen recorded it and shared it for free, which is how it went viral. But the original posting, before it was taken down later that night, had a credit, submitted by N. Richards. N. Richards. Natasha's maiden name was Richards. She'd kept it professionally for her social media presence. James's face went from pale to red. "I'm calling her. Right now." "Wait," I started, but he was already dialing. She didn't answer. He called 5 more times. Nothing. Then he called his mother. "Mom, I need to know something. When Maya was in labor, how did Natasha know to come to the hospital?" "I only texted her after we got there, and I said to wait until morning." Patricia's voice was tinny through the speaker. "Oh, honey, Natasha told me she wanted to be there for you. She seemed so excited to support Maya." "Why? Did something happen?" James hung up without answering. He was breathing hard, his hands in fists. "She planned it," he said. "She planned this whole thing." The next morning, I called a lawyer. Her name was Jennifer Kim, attorney specializing in privacy law and digital exploitation. She came recommended from a mother's group I joined online when I desperately searched. Someone posted my birth video without consent. Turned out, I wasn't alone. This was more common than anyone wanted to admit. We met in her office 2 days later. I brought James, and we brought everything. The original video, the viral reposts, screenshots of memes, and our testimony. Jennifer listened carefully, taking notes on a tablet. She was maybe 40, with sharp eyes and an even sharper demeanor. "Okay," she said when we finished. "Let's be clear about what we're dealing with. This is both a criminal and civil matter. Your sister-in-law, if she's responsible, committed several felonies." "If," James said. "Maya's sure it was her." "I believe Maya," Jennifer said. "But in court, we need proof. We need to establish 3 things. First, that Natasha was there without your explicit consent for the purpose of recording. Second, that she used hidden cameras to record you without knowledge or permission. Third, that she profited from distributing this footage." "The video credits her name," I said. "A screen name that could theoretically be anyone." "We need more." Jennifer leaned forward. "Here's what we're going to do. First, I'm filing a DMCA takedown for copyright violation. You own the rights to any recording of yourself, and this was made without consent. That'll get the video removed from most platforms. Second, we're reporting this to the police. This is voyeurism, possibly sexual exploitation depending on the content, and distribution of intimate images without consent. Third, we're going to find out how much money she made." "How do we do that?" James asked. Jennifer smiled grimly. "We sue naturalbirth.com and force them to disclose their payment records. If Natasha received money, there's a paper trail. Bank deposits, PayPal transfers, something. And once we have that, we have proof of financial motive." While Jennifer started the legal process, James decided to confront his sister directly. Against my wishes, I wanted everything to go through lawyers. He drove to her apartment on a Saturday morning. I stayed home with Luna, anxious, my phone in my hand. He called me from her doorstep. "She answered," he said. "I'm going in. I'll call you back." 30 minutes later, my phone rang. James was crying. "It was her," he said. "She admitted it. Maya, she fucking admitted it." "What did she say?" "She said." His voice broke. "She said she didn't think you'd mind since the video was empowering and beautiful. She said birth videos are popular content and she thought she was helping document Luna's birth. She said the money wasn't the point." "How much money?" $63,000. I actually gasped. What? Naturalbirth.com paid her based on subscriber views. The video got so many hits in the first week that she made $63,000. She said she was planning to put it in a college fund for Luna. I was shaking. She filmed my most private moment, sold it to strangers, some of whom are getting off on it, and she thinks she did me a favor? She kept saying you're overreacting. That birth is natural and beautiful and nothing to be ashamed of. I tried to explain. Maya, I swear I tried to make her understand, but she just kept defending herself. Did she say how she filmed it? Yeah. James's voice went flat. She had 3 cameras. One in her purse, one in a fake coffee cup on the table, and one in a button on her jacket. She edited the footage together later. She said she spent hours on it, making it professional quality. I felt sick all over again. What did you say to her? I told her she's dead to me. I told her I'm pressing charges. I told her mom and dad are going to find out what she did. And I left. That night, James told his parents everything. His mother cried. His father went silent in the way men do when they're too angry to speak. We'll support whatever you decide to do, Patricia said over the phone. Maya, honey, I'm so sorry. I never imagined Natasha would. Neither did I said quietly. But the thing was, looking back, maybe I should have. Detective Lisa Martinez was assigned to my case. She was with the Dallas Police Department's cybercrime unit, and she'd handled cases of non-consensual intimate image distribution before. This is pretty cut and dried, she said when we met at the station. We have the video, we have your testimony that you didn't consent, and we have multiple witnesses who can confirm you explicitly refused to be filmed during pregnancy. If Natasha admits to filming and distributing this, she's looking at serious charges. What charges? I asked. Voyeurism, distribution of intimate images without consent, potentially fraud if she forged any consent forms, and depending on how we argue it, exploitation. Texas law is pretty strong on this. She could face years in prison. Good, I said, and I meant it. The police executed a search warrant on Natasha's apartment. They seized her computers, phones, cameras, and hard drives. They found everything. The raw footage, hours of it, from all 3 cameras. Her editing software with the project files showing exactly how she cut it together. Her correspondence with naturalbirth.com, negotiating payment terms. Her bank statements showing the $63,000 deposit split into 2 payments. And they found something else. Something that made everything so much worse. They found messages between Natasha and someone named Julian Cross, the founder of naturalbirth.com. In those messages, Natasha explained that she'd gotten access to film a birth by being a family member, and Julian encouraged her to make sure you get the good angles, and don't worry about consent, we'll handle the legal stuff on our end. He knew. He knew she didn't have consent, and he paid her anyway. Jennifer Kim's eyes lit up when the detective showed us the messages. This is conspiracy, she said. Both of them knowingly violated your privacy for profit. We can go after naturalbirth.com too. And Maya, this is proof of intent. Natasha knew what she was doing was wrong, and she did it anyway. But the worst discovery was still coming. Detective Martinez came to my house on a Wednesday afternoon in May. Luna was 6 weeks old. I was beginning to feel like maybe, possibly, I might survive this. Maya, the detective said gently, we need to talk about something the forensics team found. Okay. In Natasha's search history, deleted but recovered, we found extensive research into labor induction methods. Specifically, synthetic oxytocin. My heart started pounding. What? Oxytocin is the hormone that causes contractions. It's what they give you in form as Pitocin to induce labor in hospitals. But there are synthetic versions available online, usually marketed for agricultural use, for veterinary medicine. I remembered the tea. The raspberry leaf tea Natasha had brought me. We found purchase records, Detective Martinez continued. Natasha ordered synthetic oxytocin powder from a veterinary supply website 3 weeks before your due date. She also searched things like how to induce labor naturally, herbal tea to start contractions, and how much oxytocin to make labor start fast. She drugged me. The words came out flat. Dead. We believe so. If she put synthetic oxytocin in that tea she gave you, it would explain why your labor progressed so rapidly. Your nurse noted in your chart that your progression from 4 centimeters to birth in under 3 hours was unusually fast for a first-time mother. Why would she do that? But even as I asked, I knew. She wanted to control when I gave birth. She wanted to make sure she was there. That's our theory. We've requested your hospital records and the teacup she brought, if it's still in evidence. If we can prove she drugged you, that's assault. Felony assault. I started crying. Not the soft, sad crying of grief. The angry, body-shaking crying of rage. This woman, this person I'd trusted, who was supposed to be family, had drugged me. had forced my body into labor before it was ready, had made me go through that agonizing, rapid delivery while secretly filming every second, had sold that footage for profit, and had then told me I was overreacting when I found out. James came home to find me sobbing on the couch, Luna crying in sympathy, and Detective Martinez looking grim. "What happened?" he demanded. I couldn't speak. The detective told him. I watched my husband's face cycle through emotions I'd never seen before. Shock, disbelief, horror, and finally, cold fury. "She's going to prison," he said quietly. "I don't care if she's my sister. I don't care if my parents beg me to drop charges. She's going to fucking prison." While the criminal case was building, something unexpected happened. Someone on TikTok made a video about my situation. Not using my name, but calling it that viral birth video case. They explained what had happened, how a woman's sister-in-law had secretly filmed her giving birth and sold it without consent. The video got 3 million views in 2 days. People were outraged. Comments flooded in, "This is one of the most violating things I've ever heard. She drugged her? That's attempted murder. I hope this woman sues for millions. This is beyond betrayal. Everyone who watched that video and made memes should be ashamed." And then something beautiful happened. People started finding the memes they'd shared and deleting them. The viral reposts were taken down by users themselves, ashamed that they'd participated in spreading someone's private trauma. Content creators made apology videos. One creator in particular, a woman named Jessica Martinez with 2 million followers, made a 12-minute video titled, "I shared that birth meme, and I was wrong. Here's why." She talked about consent, about how just because something is online doesn't mean it's okay to share, about how we've become so desensitized to other people's pain and privacy that we treat real trauma like entertainment. "That wasn't just a funny meme," Jessica said directly to the camera. "That was a real woman, in real pain, having her most vulnerable moment exploited. And when we shared it, laughed at it, made jokes about it, we became part of that exploitation. We need to do better." The video went mega viral. 8 million views. News outlets picked it up. And suddenly, my case wasn't just a private nightmare. It was a national conversation. Jennifer Kim called me, excited. "Maya, this is exactly what we need. Public opinion is completely on your side. When this goes to trial, the jury pool is going to be very sympathetic." "It's going to trial?" I asked. I thought maybe Natasha would take a plea deal. "She's refusing. Her lawyer is arguing that birth is a natural process, that filming it isn't inherently sexual or exploitative, and that she believed she had implied consent because you didn't explicitly kick her out of the room." I wanted to scream. I told her no photos, no phones, multiple times. "I know. And we have witnesses to prove that. Her defense is weak, Maya. That's probably why she won't take a deal. She's hoping a jury will feel sorry for her. But they won't. Trust me." There was another development, one I hadn't expected. A nurse from Mercy General Hospital reached out to me through Jennifer. Her name was Keisha Williams, and she'd been working the night I gave birth. Not my nurse, but on the same floor. We met at a coffee shop. She was maybe 50, with tired eyes and careful hands that she kept wrapped around her coffee cup. "I saw her," Keisha said. "Your sister-in-law. I walked past your room around 3 a.m. to check on another patient, and I saw her positioning something on the windowsill. It looked like a cup, but she was adjusting it, making sure it faced the bed. I thought it was weird, but I was slammed that night. I didn't say anything. My skin prickled. That was one of the cameras." "I know." "When your case hit the news, I realized what I'd seen, and I felt sick that I didn't report it." She looked at me with genuine anguish. "I'm so sorry. If I'd said something, you couldn't have known," I said gently. But inside I was thinking, the hospital should have policies about this. They should train staff to recognize hidden cameras. "There's more," Keisha said. "I tried to report what I saw to my supervisor. I wanted to make a statement to your lawyers, to help your case. But the hospital told me not to. They said it would open them up to liability, and if I testified or made a statement, I'd be fired for violating patient confidentiality." Jennifer, who was sitting with us, leaned forward. "That's retaliation. And it's illegal. Keisha, if you're willing, we can protect you. But more importantly, this means the hospital might have known about the cameras or failed to prevent them." "Did anyone else see Natasha filming?" "I don't know. But I do know that your birth video footage included shots from the hospital hallway camera. I recognized the angle when I saw the viral video. Someone would have had to get that footage from hospital security." My blood ran cold. "You think the hospital gave her footage? Or she hacked it? Either way, the hospital security system was compromised, and they haven't disclosed it." Jennifer's smile was sharp. "Oh, we're suing them too." In June, 3 months after Luna's birth, Natasha was formally charged with voyeurism, felony, distribution of intimate images without consent, felony, assault by drugging, felony, fraud, misdemeanor, for the fake veterinary credentials she used to buy the oxytocin, exploitation for financial gain, felony. If convicted on all counts, she faced up to 15 years in prison. Her arraignment was covered by local news. I watched from home as Natasha walked into the courthouse, her face hidden behind sunglasses and a designer scarf, her lawyer making no comment. The internet was brutal. Her Instagram, once full of sponsored posts and aesthetic photos, was flooded with comments calling her a predator, a criminal, a monster. She deleted her account within a week. James's parents were caught in the middle. Patricia called me crying several times, torn between her daughter and her son, between the family she'd raised and the moral clarity of what was right. I love her, Patricia said. She's my daughter. But what she did to you, Maya, I can't defend it. I can't understand it. I know, I said softly. Because I did understand. Loving someone and holding them accountable aren't mutually exclusive, but they're devastatingly painful to do simultaneously. Richard, James's father, was clearer. She made her choices. Now she lives with the consequences. My own parents flew in from Oregon to help with Luna and support me. My mother held me while I cried and said, "You're going to survive this. You're going to heal. And you're going to make sure she never does this to anyone else." That became my mantra. This wasn't just about me anymore. The civil lawsuit proceeded parallel to the criminal case. We were suing Natasha for $120,000 in damages, medical costs, therapy bills, lost income from my graphic design business that I'd had to pause, and pain and suffering. We were also suing naturalbirth.com for $300,000 and Mercy General Hospital for negligence and failure to protect patient privacy. During discovery, we got access to everything. And everything was worse than I'd imagined. Natasha had kept a journal. A physical, handwritten journal detailing her plans. February 10th. Maya still won't let me film her pregnancy. It's so frustrating. This is such valuable content, and she's being so selfish about it. I've been thinking, if she won't let me film the pregnancy, maybe I can film the birth. She'll be in pain, distracted. She won't notice cameras if I'm careful. February 24th. I found these amazing button cameras online. They're tiny, HD quality, 6-hour battery life. If I wear one on my jacket and put others around the room, I can get multiple angles. This is going to be such a good video. March 1st. I've been researching labor induction. If I can control when she goes into labor, I can make sure I'm there. There's this stuff called synthetic oxytocin you can buy online for farm animals. I wonder if it would work on humans. March 8th. Ordered the oxytocin. It comes as a powder. I can dissolve it in tea or juice. I just need to figure out the dosage. Don't want to hurt her, just start contractions. March 19th. James texted that Maya might go into labor soon. I'm ready. Cameras charged, tea prepared. This is going to be amazing content. When she sees the final video, she'll understand. This is art. Reading those entries, I felt something break inside me. This wasn't impulsive. This wasn't a mistake. This was calculated, planned, intentional exploitation. And the worst part? She really believed she was doing something good. She convinced herself that documenting my suffering was art, that violating my consent was justified by the final product, that my pain was less important than her vision. Jennifer read the journal in our conference room, her expression getting darker with each page. This is premeditation, she said. This proves intent, planning, and malice. The prosecution is going to destroy her with this. But here's where the story took an unexpected turn. Remember those memes? The ones people made from screenshots of my birth video? The ones that went viral? We subpoenaed them. All of them. Because here's what most people don't understand about digital forensics. Every image, every video, has metadata. Information embedded in the file about when it was created, what device created it, sometimes even GPS coordinates. The original memes, the ones posted first, before the video went viral, came from 3 accounts. 2 were anonymous. But one was traced back to an IP address registered to Natasha's apartment. She'd made memes of my birth, of my pain, and posted them herself to seed the viral spread. When Jennifer showed me the evidence, I couldn't speak for a full minute. She wanted it to go viral, I finally said. That's why she posted them. She wanted the video to spread so more people would see it, so she'd make more money. Exactly. And Maya, this is crucial evidence. It proves she didn't just passively upload to a website and hope for the best. She actively promoted your exploitation. She weaponized social media against you. We were able to identify 12 different memes Natasha had created and posted across Twitter, Reddit, and Instagram using burner accounts. Each one carefully designed to be shareable, funny, detached from the reality of what they depicted. My favorite meme, if you can call it that, was the most popular one. It was a screenshot of my face mid-contraction, captioned, "When you realize you left the oven on." It got 400,000 likes on Twitter. Natasha had posted it 16 hours after Luna was born. While I was in the hospital, bleeding, exhausted, holding my newborn, Natasha was at home turning my agony into jokes for internet points. That meme became Exhibit A in our case, because it had her digital fingerprint on it. The criminal trial started in September, 6 months after Luna's birth. I wasn't required to testify in person. My video deposition was allowed because of the traumatic nature of the case. But I chose to be there. In the courtroom, facing her. The courthouse was packed. The case had gotten national attention. True crime podcasters covered it. Court TV sent cameras. The gallery was full of reporters, advocates, and people who'd followed the story online. Natasha sat at the defense table in a conservative navy dress, her hair pulled back, no makeup, looking young and vulnerable. Her lawyer, a man named Robert Chen, had clearly coached her on optics. But when she saw me walk in, carrying Luna in her car seat, her mask slipped. Just for a second, and I saw rage flash across her face. She wasn't sorry. She was angry that she'd been caught. The prosecution's opening statement was devastating. ADA Catherine Brooks laid out the timeline, the evidence, the journal entries. She showed the jury the 3 hidden cameras. She played portions of my birth video, clinical sections, not the worst parts, to demonstrate what had been recorded without consent. "This is not a story about a family disagreement," Catherine said, facing the jury. "This is a story about premeditated exploitation." The defendant planned for weeks to violate her sister-in-law's privacy at her most vulnerable moment. She drugged her to control the timing. She filmed her without consent. She sold the footage for profit. And when it went viral, she promoted it with memes, turning the victim's pain into entertainment. This is not a mistake. This is criminal. The defense's opening was weaker. Robert Chen tried to paint Natasha as a misguided young woman who loved her family too much, who got caught up in social media culture, who made a terrible error in judgment but didn't have criminal intent. "Yes, my client made mistakes," he said. "She should have asked for clearer consent. She should have thought through the consequences. But she truly believed she was documenting a beautiful moment. She thought she was helping preserve a family memory. This is not the behavior of a criminal. This is the behavior of someone who loves her family and got carried away." I wanted to vomit. The prosecution called witnesses one by one. James testified about how I'd repeatedly refused to be filmed, how Natasha had been asked multiple times to respect my privacy, how she'd shown up at the hospital uninvited. Sharon, my labor and delivery nurse, testified about the tea Natasha brought, about how rapidly my labor progressed after I drank it, about how unusual that was. Dr. Morrison, a toxicologist, testified about synthetic oxytocin, how it works, how it could be administered orally in liquid form, and what effects it would have. "If someone consumed synthetic oxytocin in tea," Catherine asked, "what would happen?" "Contractions would begin or intensify within 20 to 30 minutes, Dr. Morrison said. "The labor would progress rapidly, faster than natural labor in most cases. It would also be more painful because the body hasn't had time to gradually adjust." Is this dangerous? Extremely. Pitocin is administered in hospitals under careful monitoring because rapid labor can cause fetal distress, maternal hemorrhaging, uterine rupture, and other life-threatening complications. Giving it to someone without their knowledge, without medical supervision, is incredibly reckless. Keisha Williams, the hospital nurse, testified about seeing Natasha position the camera cup, about the hospital's threats when she tried to come forward. Detective Martinez testified about the evidence seized from Natasha's apartment, the journal, the bank statements showing $63,000 deposited from naturalbirth.com. And then they called the digital forensics expert, Dr. Aaron Liu. He explained the metadata, the digital fingerprints, the memes traced back to Natasha's IP address. "The defendant didn't just upload this video and step back," Dr. Liu testified. "She actively promoted it. She created shareable content designed to spread virally. She monitored its spread across multiple platforms. This was a calculated campaign." Finally, they played my video deposition. The courtroom went silent as I appeared on the screen, sitting in Jennifer's office, Luna sleeping in my arms. "Natasha came to the hospital uninvited," my recorded voice said. "I was in active labor, in pain, vulnerable. She gave me tea that she said would help. Within minutes, my labor became unbearable. I was screaming, crying, begging for help. I couldn't think. I couldn't protect myself. And she filmed all of it. On screen, I started crying. The worst part isn't even the filming. It's what happened after. My most private, painful moment became a joke. People made memes of my face. They shared it, laughed at it. Some people sexualized it. And Natasha, the person who did this to me, she made money from my suffering. $63,000. She sold my pain." In the courtroom, several jurors were crying. The defense tried to undermine the testimony. They argued the tea could have been coincidence. They argued that I'd let Natasha stay in the room, which implied consent. They argued that birth videos are common and not inherently exploitative. But they couldn't explain the journal. They couldn't explain the hidden cameras. They couldn't explain the memes. And they couldn't explain why, if Natasha truly thought she was preserving family memories, she'd sold the video to a commercial website instead of keeping it private. Natasha takes the stand against her lawyer's advice. You could see it in Robert Chen's face. Natasha insisted on testifying. She wore a soft pink sweater and minimal jewelry. She'd been coached to look sympathetic. But the moment she started talking, it fell apart. I love Maya, she said, her voice sweet. She's my sister. I would never intentionally hurt her. But you did film her without consent? Catherine asked on cross-examination. I thought she wouldn't mind. Birth is beautiful. I wanted to capture that. You thought she wouldn't mind, even though she told you multiple times she didn't want to be filmed during her pregnancy? That was different. This was the birth. The moment Luna came into the world. I thought she'd want that documented. So you made that decision for her? While she was in labor, in pain, unable to consent. Natasha hesitated. I thought I was doing the right thing. Did you tell her about the cameras? No. Did you ask her permission before uploading the video to naturalbirth.com? No, but did you tell her before you made memes of her face and posted them online? I didn't, those weren't. Ms. Reeves, we have digital evidence proving you created and posted at least 12 memes from your birth video footage. Yes or no, did you create those memes? A long pause. Yes. Why? I don't know. I thought they were funny. The courtroom erupted. The judge had to call for order. Catherine pressed on. You thought images of your sister-in-law in the worst pain of her life were funny? Not like that. It's social media. That's what people do. They make memes. It's not personal. It is personal, Ms. Reeves. You violated Maya's privacy, profited from her pain, and then mocked her suffering for likes and shares. And you don't seem to understand why that's wrong. Natasha's composure finally cracked. You don't understand. I put hours into editing that video. I made it beautiful. I was trying to show how powerful birth is, how strong Maya was. And she's acting like I attacked her. I was there for her. You drugged her, Catherine said coldly. That's not. The tea was just a help. You purchased synthetic oxytocin, researched dosages, and gave it to her without her knowledge to induce labor so you could be there to film it. That's assault, Ms. Reeves. I didn't hurt her. You caused her to go through rapid, agonizing labor. You risked her life and her baby's life. For footage. For money. $63,000. Catherine turned to the jury. That's what Maya's pain was worth to the defendant. That's what she sold her sister's dignity for. Natasha was crying now, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of frustration, of someone who truly believed she was the victim in this story. I just wanted to create something meaningful, she sobbed. Nobody understands. The prosecution rested. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. I sat in the courthouse cafeteria with James, Luna sleeping against my chest, barely able to breathe. Jennifer sat with us, calm and confident. They're going to convict, she said. The evidence is too strong, and her testimony sealed it. She showed no remorse. What if they don't? I whispered. They will. At 4:47 p.m., exactly 6 months to the minute after Luna was born, we were called back to the courtroom. The jury filed in. I tried to read their faces, but they were blank. Has the jury reached a verdict? The judge asked. We have, Your Honor. On the charge of voyeurism, how do you find the defendant? Guilty. My vision blurred with tears. On the charge of distribution of intimate images without consent, how do you find? Guilty. James grabbed my hand, squeezing so hard it hurt. On the charge of assault by drugging? Guilty. On the charge of fraud? Guilty. On the charge of exploitation for financial gain? Guilty. Guilty on all counts. Natasha collapsed in her chair, sobbing. Her lawyer put a hand on her shoulder, but she shoved him away. Patricia, sitting in the gallery behind the defense, was crying silently. Richard sat stone-faced. The judge set sentencing for 6 weeks later. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. Jennifer made a brief statement. Today, justice was served. The jury recognized that what Natasha Reeves did was not a mistake, not a misunderstanding, but a calculated violation of her sister-in-law's privacy and dignity. We hope this verdict sends a message that consent matters, that women's bodies are not content, and that exploitation will not be tolerated. That night, the verdict was national news. Social media exploded with support. The hashtag Justice for Maya trended. Advocacy groups called it a landmark case for digital privacy rights. But I just sat on my couch, holding Luna, crying with relief. It was over. Almost. 6 weeks later, we returned to court for sentencing. The judge allowed victim impact statements. I'd written mine carefully, with Jennifer's help. I stood at the podium, Luna with my mother in the gallery, and faced Natasha directly. You were supposed to be family, I said, my voice shaking but clear. I trusted you. When you showed up at the hospital, I thought you were there to support me. Instead, you drugged me. You recorded the most vulnerable, painful moment of my life. You sold it. You profited from my suffering. And then, when I was at home, bleeding, exhausted, trying to figure out how to be a mother, you turned my pain into jokes for the internet. Natasha stared at her hands. But the worst part, I continued, is that you still don't understand what you did wrong. You think I'm overreacting. You think I should be grateful that you documented my birth. You turned my trauma into content, and you expected applause. I took a breath. I will never trust people the way I used to. Every time someone points a phone at me, I panic. I can't watch videos of Luna's early days because they remind me of what you stole. You didn't just violate my privacy. You stole my joy. You took what should have been the best day of my life and turned it into a nightmare. I looked up at the judge. I hope you give her the maximum sentence. Not because I want revenge, but because what she did will happen again if there are no consequences. There are other women out there being exploited like this. Their pain being sold. Their bodies being treated like content. This has to stop. I sat down, shaking. Patricia gave a statement too, apologizing to me and asking for leniency for her daughter. It was painful to watch. Then the judge spoke. Ms. Reeves, he said, looking at Natasha, I've presided over many cases in my career. But this one particularly disturbs me. You violated your sister-in-law's trust, her privacy, and her bodily autonomy. You planned this violation for weeks. You profited from it. And even now, during this trial, you've shown more concern for your own image than for the harm you caused. He paused. The court recognizes that you have no prior criminal history. However, the premeditation, the financial motive, and the complete lack of remorse are aggravating factors. On the charge of voyeurism, I sentence you to 3 years in state prison. On the charge of distribution of intimate images, 3 years, to run consecutively. On the charge of assault by drugging, 6 years, to run consecutively. On the charges of fraud and exploitation, 1 year each, to run concurrently. I did the math in my head. 12 years. Additionally, the judge continued, you will be required to register as a sex offender due to the nature of the voyeurism and distribution charges. Upon release, you will be prohibited from operating social media accounts or working in any capacity that involves filming or photographing people without explicit written consent. Natasha let out a wail. Her lawyer requested bail pending appeal. The judge denied it. Ms. Reeves will be remanded to custody immediately. And just like that, it was over. Natasha was led away in handcuffs, still crying, still not understanding. The civil cases moved faster after the criminal conviction. Natasha obviously couldn't pay the $120,000 judgment against her. She'd spent most of the $63,000 on legal fees and designer clothes. But her homeowner's insurance had a liability policy that covered $100,000, which I accepted. Naturalbirth.com settled for $275,000 rather than go to trial. Julian Cross, the founder, was separately charged with conspiracy and exploitation. His website was shut down by federal authorities, and last I heard, he was facing his own criminal trial. But the hospital settlement was the biggest win. Mercy General fought us hard. They denied negligence, denied that Keisha had been retaliated against, denied everything. But when we threatened to go to trial and make public all the security failures, the ease with which Natasha had accessed the building, the lack of training for staff to recognize hidden cameras, the failure to protect my privacy, they settled. $1.8 million. The money didn't undo what happened. But it meant I could afford therapy. It meant I could take time off from work to heal. It meant Luna's college fund was secure. And it meant I could do something I'd been thinking about for months. I started a foundation. The Medical Privacy Legal Defense Fund launched in January, 8 months after Luna's birth. With part of the settlement money and donations from people who'd followed my case, we set up a nonprofit to help other victims of medical privacy violations. Women who'd been filmed during birth without consent. Patients whose procedures had been recorded and shared. People whose most vulnerable moments had been exploited. Jennifer Kim volunteered to be our legal director. Keisha Williams, who'd been fired from Mercy General for whistleblowing, we later won her a wrongful termination settlement, became our patient advocate coordinator. In our first 6 months, we helped 43 victims. We provided legal representation, therapy referrals, and guidance on dealing with viral content. And we pushed for legislation. I testified before the Texas state legislature about the need for stronger medical privacy laws. I shared my story again and again, as many times as it took, because I wanted other women to be protected. In March, exactly 1 year after Luna's birth, the Texas Medical Privacy Act passed. It criminalized recording patients in medical settings without explicit written consent, mandated training for healthcare workers to recognize hidden recording devices, and created penalties for hospitals that failed to protect patient privacy. Other states started drafting similar bills. My case became a landmark. Law schools taught it. Medical ethics courses discussed it. And slowly, the conversation around consent and privacy in medical settings began to change. But the hardest work was personal. I was in therapy twice a week for the first year. PTSD from the birth, from the violation, from the viral humiliation. Some days were good. Some days I couldn't leave the house. Luna's first birthday was bittersweet. I made her a cake, invited close friends, and tried to celebrate. But all I could think about was a year ago. The pain, the fear, the cameras I didn't know were there. James held me while I cried that night. "She's here," he whispered. "She's healthy and happy. And you survived. You're so much stronger than you know." Patricia reached out tentatively. We'd been distant since the trial. She wanted to see Luna, wanted to rebuild our relationship. It took months of family therapy, months of painful conversations. But slowly, carefully, we found our way to something that resembled forgiveness. Not for Natasha, I would never forgive her. But for Patricia, who'd raised her, loved her, and was now grappling with the reality of who her daughter really was. "I keep thinking about what I missed," Patricia said in one session. "The signs I ignored. The times she valued attention over empathy. I feel like I failed both of you." "You didn't do this," I told her. "Natasha made her own choices." Richard came around too, in his quiet way. He was the one who built Luna's playground in our backyard, who showed up every Saturday to help James with house projects, who proved through action that he was sorry for what his daughter had done. Natasha wrote me letters from prison. I never read them. Jennifer screened them first, and she said they were mostly self-pitying justifications. "She still doesn't get it," Jennifer told me. "She thinks she's the victim of cancel culture and overzealous prosecution." "I don't care what she thinks," I said. And I meant it. I'd wasted enough energy on Natasha Reeves. In Luna's second year, I was approached by a documentary filmmaker named Rachel Chen. She wanted to make a film about consent, privacy, and the exploitation of women's bodies in digital spaces. "Your case is the perfect lens for this conversation," she said. "Would you be willing to participate?" I was hesitant. I told my story so many times, in court, to the legislature, to the media. Did I want to do it again? But Rachel's vision was different. She wanted to include other victims, experts on digital ethics, discussions about the culture that made my exploitation possible. I agreed. The documentary, titled Stolen Moments, The War on Medical Privacy, premiered at Sundance. It featured my story prominently, but also highlighted 3 other victims of similar violations. It explored how social media culture, the devaluation of women's privacy, and the profit motive of content creation had created an environment where exploitation thrived. The film won the Audience Award. It was picked up by a major streaming platform and released worldwide. Suddenly, I was doing press again. Interviews, podcasts, panels. It was exhausting, but it mattered. Because every time I told my story, someone reached out saying, "This happened to me too," or "I didn't know this was wrong," or "How can I help?" The foundation grew. We expanded to other states. We helped hundreds of victims. We changed laws. Luna turned 3. She was bright, funny, completely unaware of the trauma surrounding her birth. And that was how I wanted it. She would learn the story someday, when she was old enough to understand. But for now, she was just a little girl who loved dinosaurs and refused to wear anything but purple. James and I started talking about having another baby. "Are you sure?" he asked gently. We were sitting on the porch, Luna asleep upstairs, the evening air warm. "After everything that happened." "I'm sure," I said. "What Natasha did doesn't get to define my experience of pregnancy and birth forever. I want another child. And this time, I want to do it on my terms." We got pregnant in the fall. This time, I hired a doula I trusted completely. I found a birth photographer who specialized in consent-based documentation, someone who understood boundaries, who would only film what I explicitly approved. And I planned a home birth. No hospitals. No strangers. No risk of cameras or exploitation. Just me, James, our midwife, and the doula. My son was born on a Sunday morning in May, in our bedroom with sunshine streaming through the windows. It was peaceful. It was beautiful. It was mine. And when the photographer showed me the images she'd taken, with my full enthusiastic consent, I cried. Because they were lovely. They captured strength and joy and love. This was what Natasha had stolen from me, the right to control my own story. But I had taken it back. Hearing Natasha became eligible for parole after serving 8 years of her 12-year sentence. I was notified about the hearing. I had the right to make a statement or submit a letter. I thought about it for weeks. Luna was 11 now, my son Marcus, named after James's late grandfather, was 6. We'd built a good life. I rarely thought about Natasha anymore. The nightmares had stopped years ago. The foundation was thriving, now helping victims across all 50 states. Did I want to go back there? To that courtroom, to that pain? Jennifer called me. You don't have to go, Maya. You don't owe anyone anything. You've already done more than most victims ever could. But I decided to go. Not for Natasha. For me. The parole hearing was smaller, quieter than the trial. Natasha looked older, harder. Prison had aged her in ways that had nothing to do with time. She made a statement. Said she'd had years to think about what she'd done. Said she understood now. Said she was sorry. I didn't believe her. When it was my turn, I stood up. I don't know if you're really sorry, I said. Maybe you are. Maybe prison changed you. But it doesn't matter to me anymore. What you did shaped my life in ways I'm still discovering. It made me stronger, yes. It made me an advocate. It helped me help others. But I would trade all of that to have never gone through it in the first place. I looked at the parole board. Whether you release her or not, I've healed. I've moved on. I have a beautiful family, meaningful work, and peace. Natasha Reeves doesn't have the power to hurt me anymore. I sat down. The board deliberated for 2 days. They denied parole. Natasha would serve her full sentence. I didn't celebrate. I didn't grieve. I just felt done. Epilogue. 5 years later, Luna is 16 now. She knows the story, not all the details, but enough. She knows why I work with the foundation, why consent and privacy matter so much to me. She's thoughtful about social media in ways her peers aren't. She understands that what you post lives forever, that people's pain isn't content, that likes and shares don't justify harm. Mom, she said last week, we're learning about digital ethics in school. My teacher used your case as an example. It was kind of weird. Weird how? Weird that my mom is famous for this awful thing. But also, kind of cool. Like, you took something terrible and made it matter. You changed laws. You helped people. I hugged her. That's all I ever wanted to do. Marcus, now 11, wants to be a lawyer. He says he wants to put bad guys in jail like the lady who hurt Mom. It's both heartbreaking and heartwarming. James and I are still together, still strong. We've been through the kind of trauma that destroys some marriages, but it made ours deeper. We chose each other every day, even when it was hard. The foundation has helped over 2,000 victims now. We've contributed to privacy legislation in 37 states. We've trained thousands of healthcare workers to recognize and prevent hidden recording devices. And Natasha? She was released from prison 6 months ago, after serving her full sentence. She lives in another state, works in retail under her married name, and is prohibited from social media or photography work for life. I've never spoken to her. I don't plan to. Because here's what I learned: you don't have to forgive someone to move past them. You don't have to reconcile to heal. You just have to decide that your peace matters more than their redemption arc. Natasha turned my trauma into content. I turned it into purpose. And I won. If you or someone you know has been a victim of medical privacy violation, non-consensual recording, or digital exploitation, resources are available. You are not alone. You are believed. And you deserve justice.